You're listening to the Love Unplugged podcast, episode 123. What is manifestation and the law of attraction? How do we manifest what we desire into our lives? What can we add to our manifestation practice to take it to that next level? Today we are learning all about this and the entrepreneurial journey behind the creation of Freq rituals. So without further ado, let's get to it. Hey there, I'm your host, Jessica Freq, and I am passionate about doing the inner work needed to reach your goals. Let me be your guide as we navigate all the fears and insecurities that surface when it's time to step outside of your comfort zone. Along with my knowledgeable guests and industry experts, I'm here to teach you how to reawaken your life purpose and passion and create the steps to turn your intentions into action. Ultimately, my goal is to empower you to rise above those blocks holding you back and start living a life that you are worthy and deserving of. So come on, it's time to slow down, find a comfy spot with your favorite organic tea, and get inspired. Thank you for tuning in to the Love Unplugged podcast. Hello, loves. Today I am joined by the lovely Andrea Crowder, founder of Freq Rituals, which creates high-frequency experiences to help normalize the feeling of wealth, freedom, and love in the body. Their modern manifestation tools are designed to help free your body of any restricting thoughts, patterns, and beliefs, taking those feelings from new to déjà vu. Utilizing patented technology, scientists infuse a sophisticated blend of frequencies into each Freq ritual product, creating a unique, elevated, and more efficient manifestation experience. In alignment with Joe Dispenza's statement on manifestation, the thought sends the signal out and the feeling draws the experience back to you. Freq Rituals sets a new modern standard around a timeless spiritual practice. So I am just obsessed with your business. I've always learned about manifestation from my mom throughout my entire life. And I'm just so excited to see products being developed like this that just take your manifestation practice to the next level. So welcome, Andrea. I'm just so honored to have you as my guest. And I'm so excited to learn all about your story and your advice. But before we start, for those that don't know you yet, I would love for you to share a little bit more about you personally.
Sure. So thank you very, very much. I'm so excited that your mom was the one who introduced you into manifestation. I can't wait for my daughter someday to talk about all of the things that we've learned about together and probably tell the world all the places where I've totally flubbed as a parent, but we are all learning in this human experience. So my name is Andrea Crowder. I have been married for almost 18 years. It'll be 18 years this summer. I've been a military wife up until this last October. My husband retired from a full 20 years in the military, and we have lived all over the world. We got married and moved to England. I grew up in Seattle. We've lived in DC and Arizona and Vegas, and now we have officially landed and will probably stay put in Southern Florida, kind of in between Miami and Fort Lauderdale. So geographically, that's where we've been and that's where we are. I think some of the most important parts of my story are it doesn't really make sense. I don't have the pedigree to have the accolades that I have. I grew up with my parents getting married and divorced a handful of times each, constantly having new family members, and then those family members were gone. And, a period of my youth, I lived in an abusive home, and I've kind of just always been that kid that really have seen the world half glass full. And I think that that's one of my gifts. I don't think that's something I had to develop. I think it's just who I am as a human being. And I have always loved entrepreneurship. I know we'll get into that a little bit more, but I was so afraid to take risks when I was younger. I didn't really have the confidence, and especially pre-social media, to be able to create a business, especially around something around manifestation. I didn't even learn that word until I was in my late 20s. I'd never heard of law of attraction. I've heard the word manifestation, but not in the energetic sense. And I didn't really start learning about that like I said, until my late 20s when I started my first online business. And I think because of the development of social media, it gave me the confidence to learn how to do new things without being like physically falling on my face in front of other people. And so I've kind of always been able to grow my confidence behind a screen. And I'm really, really grateful for that. I never finished college. I did go spend a shit ton of money on on a degree that I never finished. And by the time we were in my mid 20s, my husband and I were in $100,000 in debt. And I started my first business to make $250 a month so I could pay my student loan bills. And that was the one thing that kind of motivated me. I saw this girl on Facebook and she seemed like she was having so much fun. And my first business was in network marketing. I excelled in that not right away. After I learned manifestation was when my business really, really took off. But I fell in love with online business. I fell in love with online community, and I fell in love with being able to share information. And that's something that has been a major passion of mine for the last 10 years. And slowly but surely, I like to say network marketing is a business in a box, and it gives you the confidence to do bigger and more personal things later on. And I'm so grateful that I did that first so that I would have the confidence to go out and invest my own money and start a product based business. It's been a long journey, but manifestation has been the key in every single element of the success that I've had over the years, making multi-millions of dollars in my personal brand leading up to the point of launching Freq Rituals.
Wow. You just, you unloaded a lot in that. Kate, first of all, you've been married for 18 years.
I have. Yeah, we got married when we were babies.
You look like you're in your like mid to late 20s.
Thank you.
Like, holy smokes. What is your like secret to looking so incredibly young?
Filters.
Holy smokes.
Let's not tell any lies here. It's all fucking filters.
Wow, 18 years. That's amazing. I mean, you don't see, I mean, it's unfortunate, but you don't see a lot of long-term marriages these
Yeah.
days, and that's just so incredible that you've been able to be so successful in your relationship. I'm sure it's a lot of work as well, but that's amazing.
A million percent. I'm a very, very driven, focused person. When I decide on something, I will turn over every stone, push every boulder over until I figure out how to do it and how I can be successful at that. So it is a lot of wild determination, and it hasn't been easy. Like a military lifestyle is really challenging on a marriage. It's challenging on raising children. Raising children is challenging on a marriage.
Hmm.
And the ramifications of, PTSD and my husband's deployments have really, it's pure stubbornness. And and I've done so much inner work on myself to be able to overcome anything that's come our way. And my husband would say the same thing.
That's incredible. Now, with your whole childhood, going from, these different kind of
Hmm.
parent setups and whatnot, like, and then having them leave your life, like that must have been really difficult. And you turning out to be a person who has always kind of looked at life as half full, like the glass of life as half full, that's incredible. Like, how did you deal with those situations? Were your parents very communicative with you? Like, did they help you through that? Did you struggle with that change? Like, what was that experience like for you?
I don't recall my parents really being, you know, really like sitting me down and trying to like nurture me through those moments because I don't think they knew how
Mm-hmm.
to do that. Like personal development wasn't what it is today. And again, like that's why I'm so grateful for social media. I know it gets a bad rap all the time, but I'm like the power of being able to share information so fast with
Mm-hmm.
humanity is directly related to social media. And our parents didn't have that. It's like if they were lucky to run into a friend that's like, this book changed my life, do you know Wayne Dyer, like whatever, that wasn't the circle that my parents grew up in. And I think that that was great because I had such an unpredictable childhood that I did learn how to thrive in uncertainty. And you cannot be wildly successful in entrepreneurship if you can't learn to manage your emotions in uncertainty. Or you might be able to, but eventually it will crush you.
That just shows you that no matter what your experiences are, good or bad, there's always something really important to learn in them that will set you up for your future.
Yeah, if you're willing to do that work and to learn, because my brothers and sisters all went through the same childhood that I did from their own lens, of course. And, not everybody's had the same path that I've had. So, it just depends on what you're willing to look at. And I've just always been willing to show up for that like deep inner work. Not to say that they haven't, but I think it probably took them a lot longer than it did me.
Gotcha. Now, you heard the term manifestation, but you didn't really know of the energy behind it and
Mhm.
whatnot. So, how did all of your interest and your knowledge come to be about, manifestation and the law of attraction and what that all means? How did you come across it? And then what was your experience diving into it even further?
Yeah, so when I first heard it, I started listening to some old podcasts of Gabby Bernstein, and they were just recordings of live events that she had done. So you got to like hear the audience, and it was a terrible recording. And I think somewhere on the podcast app it still exists. But this was like my first introduction into the idea of law of attraction. And I grew up with a really, really traditional Christian background, and my mom was Mormon. And so hearing words like the universe, I was like, am I allowed to say that? Am I going to go to hell? And at the same time, I was being really challenged with my belief system because I married somebody who didn't believe in anything. And according to my previous beliefs, he's going to go to hell for that. So I really struggled with like my adult years of figuring out who I am as a spiritual being and what I really do believe, and deconditioning some of like the rules and the structures and belief systems that I had been brought up with, and having to ask the question of like, do I believe this anymore? And what kind of piqued my interest initially was I started to feel a little bit more connected. I started to feel resonance with what Gabby was saying, and it was just enough to pique my interest. And then I found Wayne Dyer, who changed my life because he really helped me heal my relationship with my mother. He helped me to see how I grew up so independent because I had to be. My parents, depended on me to take care of my younger brothers and siblings. I was usually the oldest in the house, or at least the most responsible according to them. And I had that sense of independence from the time that I was born, because my mom would always praise me even as a baby about how my brother was so needy, and I never needed anything except for to be fed and to sleep. I needed a nap, I needed a clean diaper, and I needed to be fed, and I didn't need anything else. And it's so funny how her praising me that for that from the time of birth created this belief system that I could just do it all by myself. And I struggled so much, trying to build a network marketing business because you can't build that by yourself.
Mhm.
And I remember hearing Wayne Dyer say, I went on a run after work. I was exhausted. I had been building my business. After my kids went to sleep, I was waking up at 5:45 a.m. every morning to go to my corporate job and just trying to fit everything in the cracks, and truly was like completely burnout at this point. I'm running, I'm listening to Oprah interview Wayne Dyer. And Wayne says, ego just means edge God out. And you're trying to do it all on your own. And I fell on the side of the road just crying, like cars passing me in rocks, like just this moment of like, it probably rained that day. It was very dark and dreary, like just the perfect kind of setup for having a breakdown on the side of the road. And I was like, that's it. Like I really had kind of walked away from God because I was pissed that this God that I grew up with wasn't going to let my husband in heaven. And I was like, well, if he's not going, I'm not going. And just like really kind of walked away from my faith. And that was really my faith calling me back. And me creating new constructs of faith in that moment. So I just dug so deep into Wayne's work. And again, like hearing his story about, his dad and him growing up in different orphanages, and him healing his relationship with his dad and saying, like, I think my dad volunteered to do the hard thing, to be unavailable and to be a shitty parent to me. My words, not his. I don't think he said shitty, but basically saying, like, he did that so that I could learn what I needed to learn so that I could be the person that I am today for humanity. And I was like, oh, what a interesting perspective. And that perspective changed my life. So, manifestation became me learning more. Like, I read The Secret, and I remember thinking, walking in to go get a cup of coffee at Panera Bread with my mother-in-law, and I'm like, God, a protein sandwich sounds good, so good, but we're in a rush. And the lady printed out a coupon after I paid for my coffee, and it said, you won a free protein sandwich. And I was like, what? So, like, the first thing that I consciously realized that I had manifested was a protein sandwich from Panera Bread. And then not long later after that, I showed up for my corporate job, and I was usually the first person in the parking garage. I got there before anybody else did. But this day, somebody else was parking in my parking spot out of the hundreds of parking spots that were available. So instead of taking a right, I took a left, and I was like, how strange. Nobody's ever been here in that parking spot before. I took a left. I got out of my car. I looked down, and there was a wad of cash on the ground. Like,
What?
like a 20s and fives, and like, it was probably, I don't know, $30, $50. I don't remember at this point, but there was a wad of fucking cash. And I was like, okay, like, I used to believe that money doesn't fall out of the sky, but money's kind of falling out of the sky right now. So that's when I was like, there's something to, like, The Secret kind of sparked my interest. Wayne sparked my soul. And like those two things coming together created this insatiable curiosity to start learning more and more about manifestation, the law of attraction, who I really resonated with, and who I thought I was as a spiritual being, and who I wanted to be, how I wanted to show up in business, and how I wanted to live my life from that point on, because I had been putting every single human in my life from the time that I was born on my back and carrying them. And I was like, holy shit, I don't have to do that anymore. I can give all the people on my back to God, and I can just be me and take care of me. And my business went from having like a $70 week to, and maybe making like $500 a month or something like that, to a six-figure income in the next 12 months, and the next 13 months from that original day. I was having $4,000 weeks in my business. And I was like, huh, there's really something to this. Like, it feels good and it works. Like, I've never stopped since then.
Holy smokes. I feel like I've manifested this conversation with you today.
Of course you have.
Just this morning, my mom was telling me, she's like, stop carrying everything on your shoulders.
Hmm.
Just give it to God to handle, like, leave it in His hands. And I'm just like, how do you do that? Like,
Yeah.
how do you build that trust that you don't have to figure everything out yourself?
It took me like 8.5 years. So if you're
Mhm.
just getting started,
I've got a while to go.
one day at a time. And like, really, I had some moments where I put some wild faith in God. One of them being, we gave all our money away, and we didn't have a lot at that time, so it was like $4,000 and some change, but it was the first time we'd ever saved up that much money ever. And we were going to go to Italy to see our friends get married, and I heard God's voice clear as day, saying, at church one day, saying, I prayed, and I was like, God, how much should I give today? And I heard all of it. And I was like, what the fuck? And then this guest came out on stage, and they were trying to bring this young girl back from the States, from Africa, who had witnessed her brother and her father be murdered in Christian persecution. And I was still, still kind of like straddling my belief systems in like spirituality and Christianity and how all those fit together. And I still to this day love church and love religion. I just see it differently. But I felt so connected to this girl. And again, my husband is a non-believer. He always says I'm the friendly neighborhood atheist. Like, I don't make a religion out of being an atheist, you'd say, but like I just don't believe that there's this like big God in the sky and like whatever. So I imagine me trying to call this person who I love dearly and say, God told me to give every penny in our bank account away. What's up with that?
Mhm.
And I remember praying, I'm like, God, you're going to have to call him first. And so I left church that morning with my children and I called my husband and I was like, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I don't think we're supposed to go to Italy and I think we're supposed to give all our money away. And he goes, just don't use our debit card. My husband's in the military, so like he understands everything that's going on in Africa from a political standpoint. And I was like, excuse me. Did God call you first?
Wow.
So we gave every single penny away. And this was around the same time that like I was that Wayne Dyer came into my life and I heard the words edge God out. And I really took this wild step of faith, just believing that God would replenish that money and that we would be okay. And I remember just thinking like, do we have enough food in our fridge to last us till 2 more weeks for till the next payday? And I was like, I think we can make it work. And that was just like my biggest concern at the moment was like, let me at least make sure I can feed my children and like I'm not being irresponsible. But I knew we could. We gave every penny in our account away, literally to the penny. And that was when my business like exploded. We hit that six figures and like, and then even in the next year, we went into the multiple six figures and have made multiples of $1 million since then. But that was a wild act of faith. I don't know today if God said all of it, if I would be like, I already did that once. God, are you sure? It was a brave moment. I don't know that I would be that brave again, but it is a daily process of taking whatever weight is on your shoulders and then just you can do a visualization, do a meditation or visualization and just ask, what is this? Is there a brick on my shoulder? Is there a name? Is there a symbol? Is there a number? Just like ask to be shown. And then whatever
Mhm.
you're shown, just like imagine you picking it up into your hand and then handing it over. I handed ice cubes to God the other day. I'm like, what is this ice? I feel ice on my heart. God, can you take this ice? And I just saw these huge bricks of like ice as if you had made an igloo. And I was just like, here you go. Here you go. Like just handing them to God. It's
Wow.
practice and trust. And sometimes you feel crazy.
Hey, I mean, that's fine. And I love that suggestion of doing the visualization and coming up or asking for whatever that looks like and passing it, like seeing yourself pass it off and stuff. I'm going to definitely try that.
One of my favorite rituals is just asking questions. What is this? What do I need to see? What do I need to know? What do I need to do? Um, or even something, just putting my hand on my heart and just asking, what do I need in this moment?
Hmm. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Now, with your husband not being a believer,
Hmm.
I would love to know, how did you explain energy? How did you explain manifestation, the law of attraction? Like, how did you have that conversation with him so he kind of understood what you're doing?
I don't know that I ever had that conversation in the beginning. I think one of the things that I realized from being an entrepreneur was it doesn't matter what you say, and as a mother, right? It doesn't matter what you
Mhm.
say, it matters who you are, it matters how you live, it matters how you be. And I realized that the most powerful way to create transformations for others is not to tell them what to do, but to show them. And if I could be the example of what it was like to live my life differently, to live my life with more peace, to live my life with more wealth, to live my life feeling more free internally, not just externally. And as I lived that, he has slowly started to see the world differently all on his own. And part of that was he did go through, extreme deployment situations. He had to go to inpatient therapy for his PTSD, for extreme trauma healing work. And in that healing work, he was brought to his knees literally And it was the most excruciating thing to witness, to be a part of, and for him to go through. He had to figure out how to live again every day, not just try to survive. And, it's so interesting that if we don't listen to that still small voice, how eventually it does feel like a necessary surrendering because you have no other choice. So I do think that God kind of brought him to his knees, and I think he's going through an awakening. Like, we'll keep it quiet. I'm not going to say anything, but I kind of think that he's having a spiritual flu right now. I don't think he's actually really sick. So stay tuned. I'll let you know a year from now where we are. But he did say the other day, I gave him a hard time because I thought he was making fun of me. And he said, he was sleeping a lot. I'm like, dude, you're napping like 3 hours a day. Like, I could use some help. He's in charge of Freq shipping, and like he was doing that, but like he still had to take like that 3 hour a day nap. And I was like, what the heck, dude? What is going on with you? Are you okay? Should we get your thyroid checked? Like all the practical things. Are you hydrating enough? And then on last Friday, he slept the entire day. He didn't even get up
Wow.
to like eat. And I was like, oh my God, is he getting upgraded? Is he going through an energetic upgrade? And that was like something that I said in like a cheeky way to him. I'm like, I think you're getting upgrades, because he doesn't believe that. So it did feel cheeky in the moment. And then the next day, he went to sleep again. And at like by 10 a.m., he's already napping. And I was like, dude, I really need
What?
your help today. And he got mad, and he's like, at first he's like, I'm getting upgraded. And I was like, you don't even believe that. I got mad. And I was like, get your ass out of bed and help me. And then he started crying. And I was like,
Oh.
oh my God, I'm an asshole. Like, you think you're like this super spiritual person, and then you just have this really human moment, and you're like, I'm a total asshole, and I'm so sorry. I genuinely apologize, but he cried, and he's like, I feel like all I know is there's something bigger than me happening to me, and that's all I can say. I have nothing else. And I'm
Wow.
like, okay, I'll back off. I think he's going through the dark night of the soul. I don't know, but I'm just gonna everybody hold space for Jeremy.
Aw. Yeah, a lot of healing happens during sleep. Like, sleep is
Yeah,
so important. Like, there's a lot that happens in that time.
yeah, 100%.
All right. I mean, I could keep going off completely off topic here with you, but I want to get down to your business and your products as well.
It's
Let's talk
all
about
related for sure.
it's all related. How did the idea for Freak Rituals come to be?
Yeah, it's the most cliche spiritual story. The new moon, October 2019, I woke up out of a dead cold sleep, and I heard the words, see it, speak it, know it, have it. And I was like, huh? what, what is this? So, like, I laid in bed. One of my favorite rituals is to lay in bed before I open my eyes for maybe like 10-15 minutes. This is where I set intentions, I pray. This is where if I feel any dense energy or any weight, that like I'll do that visualization practice, and I'll just hand whatever, if it's like worry on my heart, if it's anxiousness, if it's anger, if it's resentment, like whatever it is, I'll just visualize handing that away so that I get out of bed and my feet hit the floor feeling lighter and more refined and aligned with my mission, and what it is that I actually want to do and feel that day. So the shit that I teach in Freq and in my personal brand is something that is truly who I am and how I exist in like nearly every moment of my life, except for when I'm yelling at my husband because I'm pissed he's taking a nap. I am a human being who does make mistakes. But yeah, so I laid in bed. I just listened, and I was like, I think that these are the steps to manifestation, but they're just steps I've never heard said in this way before. So I opened my eyes, I wrote them down in a note in my phone. I then got out of bed, and I just felt really guided to go open up a notebook. I think I might have worked out a little bit too. And I was just free flowing to wherever I was feeling guided. But like, I was so in my head, like something was coming in, and I felt like that feeling of like a download, a big idea. So, like, nobody could talk to me. You couldn't get through to me. My husband would try to say words to me, and I literally couldn't hear him. Like, I was just so in this receptive mode. And within hours, I had our first product line all written out. And within probably by mid afternoon, I had found like the different label options and like container options. I had priced everything out. Like everything just came together. And I truly, truly like, I didn't come up with this idea. This idea was like birthed through me essentially just by me like being willing to listen and allow. So if you're ever feeling like you don't have the idea, you're stuck on it, like stop trying. Trying is like more being in resistance. So that was where the idea came from. And I had already known that we were going to create some sort of infused product line, but it looked nothing like this. That day was the day that it became the name Freq. That was the day that the steps were born and then the concept for the product line. So eventually we'll have a product for every single step. Right now we have two products for See It and then one product for Know It. But the Speak It is more your affirmations and have it. Let me explain the steps for you since I haven't done that. See It is visualization. So just getting clear in your mind's eye about what it is that you want. And you're essentially aligning all four of your bodies, your spiritual body, your mental body, your emotional body, and your physical body. You're aligning all four of those bodies in the same direction through these four steps. So See It is the spiritual body, and you're getting clear in your mind's eye. Speak It is your mental body, and you're making sure to align your words and your belief systems with where it is that you're going. Know It is your emotional body. And this is where you start to realign your emotions with what it is that you want. So if you feel super poor, but you say, I want wealth, those two things cancel each other out, right? So you need the feelings to match. And then Have It is aligned action. So you get yourself into alignment first using the first three steps, and then you take aligned action as if it were already yours. Does that make sense? Did I explain that well?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Great.
Wow. Okay. So, what was your experience creating this business now that you have this whole kind of product line kind of mapped out and you have this idea of what you want to create? What was your process in actually like taking action now?
So I lived and breathed those four steps every single step of the way, from how I was aligning myself with other people and partnerships, to how I was funding the company, to how I was finding every single element that we needed. Some of the initial, like, container components that I thought we were going to use at first changed because some of the products changed from that initial idea. So really allowing that vision to evolve as you go is really important. But when I first had the idea, I thought I was going to birth this as a sub brand for another company that I was a co-founder in. And what I realized was is that God was going to have me exit that company. That partnership was no longer aligned for where I was going, and I was really learning to stand on my own 2 feet. I had done, network marketing for so many years. So you're building businesses with other people, and that's all I had ever known. And stripping away this partnership was about me standing on my own 2 feet. It was about her learning to stand on her own 2 feet. And that was the biggest challenge out of all of it because it brought up all our emotions. It brought up fear. I thought I was gonna, the company was birthed just exclusively through me in terms of the ideas, but I was so quick to just assume that it was going to be a sub brand of this other company that I didn't even stop to ask. And I just assumed and I just started behaving as such. So I kind of had to fight for the company and like the professional divorce. And that sucked. It was painful for both of us, you know. And at the end of the day, I'm like, look, if you want to create the same exact product line, go create the same exact product line. Just the name Freq came through me and this name came through you, and that's it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what I got out of the divorce was essentially the name. And then our nostalgic manifesting mist, I hadn't even had that idea yet. So that idea came later on, and just I actually did try again. Like I really believed that I was supposed to birth this company with other people, And I brought someone else in again who then backed out like 3 weeks before we were launching. So I'm like, okay, God, I hear
Oh
you.
my.
I'm doing this on my own. And that was at the same time that my husband was really having like his full on breakdown with his PTSD. And we had to check him into treatment. Like he went into a full schizophrenic state for 3 days straight, to where I had to put him in inpatient because like I couldn't stay up to watch him. Like it
It's
was
tough.
horrific. It was the hardest thing that I've ever gone through in my entire life. And at the same time, I'm birthing this company, and now I'm birthing this company alone. And I'm caring for my family alone. So God stripped away every blankie. It's like, when you're a kid and you have like your favorite blankie or your favorite stuffed animal or whatever, like everything that I thought was like my safety net was stripped from me. And that is how this company had to come into this world, because it truly had to be me in full embodiment of the belief systems around this company, and show myself that I could do it, and that I could lead this, and that I could hold this container energetically. And it has been the fastest growing, most naturally growing business or offering that I have ever created.
Wow. I mean, first of all, dealing with someone who has schizophrenia, I mean, I've been there. One of my immediate family members, I had to
Mm,
go through that with them.
hmm.
And it is the most traumatic experience ever.
Yes, it is.
Like it's scarring. Like even for me to even like think back about it, like I wouldn't have been able to take on anything but like maybe drinking some water a few times a day.
Yep.
So for you to have to go through that, with your husband, and then to also have a business that you're trying to launch at the same time, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just in awe.
And run my other company. Like my other company was the one paying her mortgage. So like there was so much going on. But what I'll tell you is that I had spent so many years learning to not just incorporate these rituals in my life, but embody them.
Hmm.
The muscle memory was there. I prepared myself for what I did not know was coming. And man, if like my only message that somebody gets from listening to this is, if you feel the nudge to start realigning yourself with new rituals and new habits and new patterns that are all around supporting your spiritual body, your mental body, your emotional body, and your physical body, do it before you have to. Because we are living a human experience, and you will have to. You're gonna lose a loved one. Somebody that you care about is gonna leave. Like you'll lose a best friend. Like I lost two of them in 2020, and I thought that I was losing my marriage. I didn't know that like we were going to make it out of that. All I knew is like everything was crumbling in that moment. And I want to say, like, the average person wouldn't have made it out of that alive. And the only reason that I say that I'm not the average person is because very few people will prepare ahead of time for what they don't know is coming. And I was willing to do that. And I'm so grateful to my younger self for having the wisdom, the tenacity, and the guts to prepare myself for what I didn't know was coming, because it is the only reason that not only I survived, but thrived. And it was the most financially successful year that I've ever had, even in my personal brand, amidst it being the worst personal year of my entire life.
That's incredible. I totally agree that, get your stuff together before the shit hits the fan. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you need to take care of you before it comes to that time where, like, you're going to have to step up, right?
Hmm.
And you're not going to be ready for it.
Hmm.
You need to be there already and prepared for anything that could come your way.
100%.
Now, what have been your biggest lessons and wins with your business, Freak Rituals?
I mean, I think one of the biggest wins was me just getting it launched in 2020. Like we didn't even touch on, I launched a product-based company in a pandemic. So like the delays on everything
Oh, God.
was insane and so stressful. And like we went into pre-sales, and then like our last product got delayed even further, to where I was shipping and people got their product just before Christmas. So it was so stressful. And yet it still all happened, like I got all the pre-sale orders shipped out the day before I was going to go pick my husband up from getting on a treatment. So I had to get everything in the mail and then get on the road to go get him. And that in itself was a miracle of me spending time, like me saying, no, I'm unavailable for your delay, saying that that will also be here tomorrow. We had like the truck driver said, like, it's here in Florida, 30 minutes away, but we're actually not going to be able to get it to your house for 3 days more. And I
What?
messaged my assistant and I was like, would you please call them back and tell them that we are unavailable for that, to tell me where it is and that I'm on my way. And like, I had to put on my big girl boss pants in that moment and say, like, I know I'm super spiritual, but I'm also authoritative, and I'm saying that that's a no for me. So
Mhm.
let's go, friends. Like, there's this balance of the masculine and feminine in entrepreneurship where sometimes you do have to step into that more masculine role, and then sometimes you just have to allow God to do the heavy lifting, and you have to have the wisdom of knowing which one is appropriate in any given moment. So my biggest win is having that wisdom. And I would say, like, this company is like really truly growing itself. Like, we are not doing paid advertising every single month. Like, we're growing, like, I don't know, by like 30 or 40% even after the
Wow.
holidays. Like, it's just happening and people are talking about us just naturally. And a lot of this we planned for. Like, I'm also a smart businesswoman and I'm great at branding and I'm great at understanding the psychology of human behavior and like why people like to talk about things. So like that was something that I put a lot of time and thought into it, and a lot of intention, and exactly all of the intentions that I infused into this company personally are how it's being received. And I'm so thrilled because you kind of never know. And it's like you're waiting for everybody to get their first box and you're holding your breath. Like, I self-funded every penny of this. So you're just praying that people love it as much as you do. And truly, I think people are loving it more. And I couldn't be more thrilled.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations. I saw Manifestation Babe.
Hmm.
I saw her talking about it and using the products, and I was like, "What is this?"
Yeah. Yep.
It's amazing.
She's one of our like happiest affiliates. She takes our product everywhere. She travels with it. Her and I have had so many conversations behind the scenes where she'll tell me, like, we love this about it. And I'm like, these are all the exact things that I was praying that you guys would love. So thank you so much for like the verbal affirmation behind the scenes that it truly is being received how we intended it to be.
Amazing. So let's talk about the products itself. How do they work? What are their benefits? What was your process in creating these energy infused products?
So, what I realized through coaching personally hundreds of women, and then a little bit more impersonally through group coaching thousands of women over the last decade, is that people have a fairly easy time matching the frequency of what they want for a moment. But it is very much like a sugar rush. You get really high on the idea, and then all of a sudden you get dropped back down to the frequency that you were at, and all of the kind of dense belief systems that you hold in your body most specifically keep you from having it. So Joe Dispenza says the thought sends a signal out and the feeling draws the experience back to you. So with these first three products, the meditation and visualization products, which are our infused bath salts, which people love on a full moon and a new moon. That's when we see people using that product the most. They do their bath rituals. And then our elixir is like you can use as a pillow meditation and you can take it anywhere. And these two products help you get into the frequency and match the frequency of what it is you want. Every product comes with a guided visualization, and that visualization library will only continue to expand. And then the nostalgic manifesting mist was one of those accidental ideas. All the best ideas are, right? And my brand artist messaged me and she was talking about like scent and like the power of scent. And I was like, what if there were a way where we could help connect people to a scent of something that hasn't happened yet? And then I was like, wait, that kind of is a thing. Like, this is an NLP concept. But I realized that after like a month of research, and I was like, this is an actual therapeutic modality. And nobody sells products like this. And nobody certainly sells a frequency infused product like this. So what we did was we intentionally created this beautiful scent. It's very grounding. It's very balanced between the masculine and feminine. And when you get yourself into an elevated emotional state, you spray the scent and you connect the elevated emotional state that matches your desire. And now every time you smell that scent, it's now anchored, because scent recalls memory 30% faster than any of your other four senses. So, because it has that direct connection to the brain where memory and emotion are, if Joe Dispenza says the thought sends the signal out and the feeling draws the experience back to you, then our meditation product will support you sending the signal out, and our nostalgic manifesting mist will support you in drawing the experience back to you, because that scent will help you hold the emotion every time you smell it. It's fucking genius. If I
Yes.
don't say so myself. So you can match the frequency and you can hold the frequency with the current product line that we have. Every other product that we create from here on out will be supporting that process. But yeah,
Wow.
that's how it
Wow.
works.
How did you go about creating these products? Like, did you work with other individuals to infuse that energy?
We have brilliant scientists who use a patented scientific process that have been doing this work for decades, that went from not just growing up, but like having a career in the military as physicists, and only believing what they could see and what they could test and what they could duplicate, right? To, all of a sudden kind of being awakened and seeing, like, how is it that there are people with these abilities that you can, think a thought and that other person will know exactly what you're thinking. And so, like, they started studying that process and they were able to, through those decades of research, create this patented technology where they can record the subtle energy pattern of any substance in the world. They can store it and then they can duplicate it. So what they did is they started testing different blends of frequencies together. They helped us create this. Our meditation frequency is the most like potent. They created three options of like a light meditation, immediate meditation, and his words, not mine. He said, and this one will help you meditate like monk. And he pushes it across the table to me. And I'm like, that's the one we want.
Yes.
So I tested it and it was the fastest that I'd ever dropped into a meditation. And I did it on an airplane. This is the most hilarious story. I did it on an airplane and I realized that it was starting to work because I was just all of a sudden taking these natural deep breaths that like I wasn't anticipating. My body just naturally started slowing down my breath really, really slow. So I'm like getting into the most epic meditation of my life. And then through all the deep breathing, I hope your audience is, I don't know your audience very well, but I am going to be very, very just upfront about the story. Through the breath that was happening, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have a spontaneous orgasm on this fucking plane. And as this is happening, the flight attendant is walking towards me trying to take my drink order. And I'm like, dear God, abort mission, help me now. Like, hear the prayer of your child. And I was like, this is the one. If we only sell one thing, we're going to sell orgasms and change the world anyway. So that was how we knew
Wow.
it was absolutely the most perfect blend of frequencies. But people describe it similarly. Nobody's at least expressed to me that they've had that same experience. But what happens is your body starts to tingle. It almost feels like you're like floating above yourself, and you feel this like most delicious, refined energy. We call it the freak float because it kind of feels like you're floating outside of yourself, and it is warm and absolutely epic. So it's just fun hearing people's experiences on Instagram stories and stuff. But I'm like, but who else has had an orgasm? Be honest.
That's hilarious. I love it. Oh, that's so funny. All right. So I know we're running a little bit out of time. I just have a couple more questions for you.
You're fine.
Um, what should a manifestation practice look like? What is the best way to practice manifestation?
Just remembering the mantra, see it, speak it, know it, have it. And remembering, like, when you can get all four of your bodies headed in the same direction. So that spiritual body, that mental body, that emotional body, and the physical body. That's the see it, speak it, know it, have it steps. Then you are in alignment with what it is that you desire, and it will manifest really, really quickly. And the trick is being willing to not tell yourself a story that it doesn't work or that you're not good enough or whatever it is that you're tempted to say if it doesn't happen right away. Because every time that something either does or doesn't manifest, it's just information. It's just information about what's happening vibrationally for you. And so if you can start to just take yourself and your personality and your identity out of the equation and just look at the information as if like you're a scientist and you're just curious, you will not stay in the lower vibration of it's not working, it's not working, it's not working, because you'll just look and you'll say, oh, interesting how maybe my emotions were not in alignment, or interesting how I found myself going back to old thought patterns, or interesting how I felt guided to take that action, but I was afraid, and I can admit that. And that's okay, because it's just information, and this whole life experience is just about me getting to play with experience and me getting to play with vibration in a physical body. So go back to the beginning of the see it, speak it, know it, have it. Like wash, rinse, repeat over and over and over, and have fun with it. Truly, truly, the biggest secret to like quantum leaping anything in your life is to being willing to have fun and play in the process.
I love that. That was so perfectly said.
Thank you.
All right, so what is on the horizon for Freq Rituals? Can you share any
Wouldn't
teasers?
you like to know? I will say that we do have 3 products that we are actively developing behind the scenes. Our intention is to have them out by the holidays, and I can't tell you what they are. I can tell you that they're in support of the 3 products that we already have, and that's all I can tell you for now. And of course, they'll be beautiful because that's all we do.
Sounds good. I am going to keep my eye out for it, and I think I'm going to purchase some of those products that you have available right now.
Yeah,
I
you
am
might want to do
so
that.
eager to try it.
Your audience can use the code SheMakesBank for $20 off the set of 3.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
All right, so if anybody wants to learn more about you, they want to learn more about your products, where can they connect with you? Where do you hang out the most?
You can go over to @Freq Rituals on Instagram. We spend a lot of time over there. And of course, our website. Jump on our email list because you'll be the first to hear about those new products. We're always innovating and coming up with new ideas. But we also do a lot of the stuff that you learned today, like some of those visualization practices or journal prompts. We love sharing that and sharing the story of entrepreneurship, of how we're growing and self-funding, and if we're going to take on investments and stuff like that. We just let our entire audience in the behind the scenes because the majority of our audience is entrepreneurs, and we've just found that like a lot of these people are coming and they're like gifting their clients with our products. And so once we saw that like these entrepreneurs were using this as like a client gift or a team gift or whatever, we're like, wait, you guys actually want to hear this shit. So we do give a lot of the behind the scenes. And my personal Instagram is love_Andrea Crowder. And I'm on Insta stories every day, and you can DM me questions anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andrea, for joining me today and for taking the time to share your entrepreneurial journey, your learnings and advice, but for also creating tools that elevate our manifestation practice. I absolutely love your business. I love your story. I resonate with you so much, and I can't wait to try your products.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
I'm Jessica, and thanks for tuning in today to Love Unplugged, the podcast. If there are any questions or topics you'd love answered on the show, head on over to www.projectloveco.com and share your request with me. If you haven't yet, go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and share it with a loved one. Your feedback means the world to me, and the community we've created is what fuels our discussions here. After all, this is all for you. Join me next time for another unplugged conversation.